You're in your 30s. And somewhere between the rent, the bills, the job you half like, and the weekends that go too fast, you started wondering if you missed something. Not a big thing. Not a moment you can point to. Just a slow feeling. Like everyone else got a manual you never received. You watch people talk about investments, assets, net worth, and they say it like it's obvious. Like it's something they just knew. And you sit there nodding, pretending it makes sense, hoping no one asks you a direct question. I know that feeling. I've been in that room. Here's what nobody tells you at 29, or 32, or 35, the people who look like they have it figured out. Most of them are improvising too. The difference isn't intelligence. It's not luck. It's not even the money they started with. It's that at some point, they made a decision. Quiet. Almost boring. No big speech. No dramatic moment. They just decided to stop drifting. This video is about what happens after that decision. Not the fantasy version, the real one. There's a specific kind of tired that hits you in your 30s. It's not the tired from working too hard. It's the tired from working without direction. You've been busy, genuinely busy, but when you stop and look around, you realize the busyness hasn't been building anything. It's just been maintaining, keeping things from falling apart. And that realization lands differently at 32 than it did at 22. At 22, not having a plan felt like freedom. At 32, it starts to feel like a leak in the wall you've been ignoring. Small at first. Easy to patch with distraction. A new series, a night out, a purchase that felt good for about 3 days. But the leak is still there. Here's the thing about financial drift, and I want you to really sit with this, it doesn't look like disaster. That's why it's so dangerous. It looks like a normal life. Decent job. Decent apartment. Enough money to get through the month, sometimes a little left over. It looks fine. From the outside, it looks completely fine. But you know the number in your account. You know how close the margins actually are. You know what one unexpected bill does to the whole structure. That's not a financial problem. That's an architecture problem. The foundation was never built, it was just never tested hard enough to collapse. Not yet. And the longer you wait to address the foundation, the more expensive it becomes. Not just in money. In options. In the paths that quietly close while you're busy maintaining the surface. This is where most people stay. Not because they're lazy. Not because they don't care. But because nobody sat down with them and said, here's what's actually happening, and here's the honest way out. So let's do that. Let me ask you something honest. When you think about building wealth, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Stocks? Real estate? Some investment account you keep meaning to open? Most people go straight to the vehicle. The instrument. The thing that's supposed to carry them somewhere. But they never ask the more important question, where are you starting from? Not where you wish you were starting from. Not the version of yourself that made all the right calls at 24. Where you are. Right now. Today. Because here's what I've seen, and this took me longer to understand than I'd like to admit, the reason most people never build wealth isn't the strategy they chose. It's that they tried to run before they understood the ground beneath their feet. They downloaded the app. Watched the videos. Read the threads. And then wondered why nothing moved. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to build a house. You've got the blueprints, the materials, the crew ready to go. But the land is soft. Unstable. Nobody checked the soil before breaking ground. That's what starting to invest without understanding your own financial baseline looks like. The baseline isn't glamorous. It doesn't make for exciting content. But it is everything. Your baseline is this: what comes in, what goes out, what stays, and what it's doing while it stays. That's it. 4 things. And most people in their 30s have never sat down, really sat down, and mapped that honestly. Without rounding up the income. Without forgetting the subscriptions. Without pretending the credit card is under control when it isn't. The starting line isn't where you want it to be. But it's real. And real is the only place anything actually gets built. Everyone has heard about compound interest. It gets talked about in every finance video, every book, every conversation about money that lasts longer than 5 minutes. And after a while, it starts to sound like background noise. Another thing people say. Another concept that makes sense in theory but doesn't quite land in real life. So let me try a different angle. Forget the money for a second. Think about the last 5 years of your life. The habits you kept. The ones you dropped. The decisions you made on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody was watching and nothing felt particularly important. Those moments compounded too. That's the part they don't put in the brochure. Compound interest isn't just a financial mechanism. It's a law that applies to everything. The small disciplines that felt pointless, they're somewhere in your character now. The small avoidances that felt harmless, they're somewhere in your patterns now. You are, right now, the compound result of thousands of choices that felt insignificant when you made them. And here's where that becomes either terrifying or liberating, depending on how you hold it. If the past 5 years compounded into something you don't love, that's real information. Not a verdict. Information. Because the same mechanism that brought you here will carry you forward. The question isn't whether compounding is working. It's always working. The question is what you're feeding it. A person who saves $200 a month at 25 and a person who starts at 35, the difference in outcome isn't just time. It's the weight of accumulated decisions. The identity that forms around consistent action. The way your relationship with money quietly reshapes itself when you stop treating it like a problem and start treating it like a tool. You can't go back and start earlier. But 10 years from now, you'll wish you had started today. That's not a motivational line. That's just how the math works. Nobody talks about this part. Everyone talks about the number. The account balance. The portfolio value. The moment you hit a milestone and feel like something has shifted. But the real change, the one that matters, happens much quieter than that. It starts with a Tuesday. Nothing special about it. You get an unexpected bill. Car repair. Medical expense. Something that 3 years ago would have sent a cold wave through your chest the moment you open the envelope. And this time, it doesn't. Not because the bill isn't real. Not because the money is infinite. But because there's a buffer now. A small one, maybe. But it's there. And that buffer doesn't just hold money, it holds something harder to quantify. It holds time. Space. The ability to think instead of react. That's what people mean when they talk about financial freedom, and most of them describe it wrong. They describe it as a destination. A number you hit. A retirement date you circle on a calendar. But freedom isn't a destination. It's a feeling you start building in increments. And the first increment isn't $1 million. It's 1 month of expenses sitting untouched in an account. Just 1 month. The psychological weight that lifts when you have that cushion, when you know that if something goes wrong this week, you have room, that weight is invisible until it's gone. And most people have been carrying it so long they've stopped noticing it's there. Think about the decisions you've made under financial pressure. The job you stayed in too long because you couldn't afford to leave. The conversation you avoided because money was tight and tension was high. The risk you didn't take because the margin was too thin. Wealth doesn't just change your account. It changes the decisions available to you. It changes who you are when you walk into a room. Not because of arrogance. Because of groundedness. Because you're not negotiating from desperation anymore. And that version of you, calm, clear, not backed into a corner, makes better decisions. Builds better relationships. Takes better opportunities. The money is almost secondary. Almost. Here's where I want to be careful. Because this is the part where most content pivots into a list. 10 steps. 5 habits. 3 accounts you need to open by Friday. And I understand why. Lists feel like progress. They feel like something you can hold. But I've watched people collect lists their entire lives and never move. So instead of a list, I want to talk about sequence. Because the order in which you do things matters more than most people realize. Doing the right thing in the wrong order is still the wrong thing. First, and I mean before anything else, you stop the bleeding. That sounds dramatic. It isn't. It just means you get honest about where money is leaving your life without your full attention. Not the big obvious expenses. Those you know. I'm talking about the slow drains. The subscriptions you forgot about. The habits that got expensive without ever feeling like a decision. The minimum payments on debt that are quietly consuming a percentage of your future every single month. You can't fill a bucket that has holes in it. That's not a metaphor. That's the literal problem. Second, you build the floor. 1 month of expenses. Sitting somewhere boring. A high-yield savings account. Not invested. Not touched. Just there. This is not your wealth. This is your stability. The thing that keeps a hard week from becoming a financial crisis. Third, and only third, you start building. Index funds. Retirement accounts. Real estate if the numbers make sense for your life. The vehicle matters less than the consistency. A modest contribution made every month without exception will outperform a brilliant strategy applied with discipline for 3 months and then abandoned. The secret that nobody wants to sell you, because it doesn't make for an exciting product, is that this is slow. Intentionally, unavoidably slow. But slow and consistent in the right direction is how every meaningful thing gets built. Not just money. Everything. The career that actually fits you. The relationship that actually holds. The version of yourself you're quietly becoming through the accumulation of small, unglamorous choices. Wealth isn't the goal. Wealth is what happens when you get serious about your life. Before we get to the end of this, and I promise the end is worth staying for, I want to say something directly. If you've made it this far in the video, you're not here by accident. Most people click away in the first minute. You stayed. That tells me something about where you are right now. Something shifted for you, or you're looking for it to shift. So I want to invite you to subscribe to this channel. Not because of the number. Because we do this every day, real conversations, honest content, no shortcuts dressed up as strategy. If this video gave you something, there's more where this came from. Hit subscribe and come back tomorrow. And I'll tell you this, the people who find this channel and stay, they're usually at exactly the kind of crossroads this video is about. That's not a coincidence. Now, back to where we were. Because there's one thing I haven't said yet. And it might be the most important thing in this entire video. Everything we talked about, the baseline, the buffer, the slow build, the compounding, none of it works without one ingredient that has nothing to do with finance. Identity. Not motivation. Not discipline in the abstract. Identity. There's a difference between a person who is trying to save money and a person who considers themselves someone who builds wealth. The actions might look identical from the outside. But one of them is fighting themselves every step of the way. And one of them is just being who they are. The shift isn't dramatic. It doesn't happen in a single moment. But it is the shift that makes everything else sustainable. You stop asking how do I make myself do this, and you start asking what would someone like me do here? That question changes everything. 10 years from now, you'll remember this period. Not the specific video. Not the exact day. But this season, this moment where something started to feel different. Where you stopped waiting for the right time and started paying attention to the time you actually have. Most people spend their 30s thinking they're behind. And maybe you are, by some measure. But behind compared to what? A timeline someone else drew? A version of success that was never really yours to begin with? The most dangerous thing isn't starting late. It's never deciding what you're actually building toward. Because wealth without intention is just accumulation. Numbers that grow without meaning. And meaning is the thing that makes the discipline sustainable. The thing that gets you up when the market drops and the news is loud and everything feels uncertain. You don't need more information. You have enough. You don't need a perfect plan. Perfect plans don't survive contact with real life anyway. What you need is a decision. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't require an audience. The kind where you look at your life honestly, not harshly, honestly, and say, this is where I am. And I'm going to build from here. Not from where I wish I started. Not from the version of me that made better choices at 24. From here. There's a verse that has stayed with me through more uncertain seasons than I can count. Proverbs 13 verse 11, wealth gained hastily will dwindle, but whoever gathers little by little will increase it. Little by little. That's the whole strategy. That's the whole video. If this conversation meant something to you, hit that subscribe button, share this with 5 people who need to hear it, and leave a comment below. A real one. Tell me where you are right now, and tell me what you want us to talk about next. I'll be here.